Hello, welcome back to Migraine Relief Hotline. If we haven't met, I'm Kelly, the migraine dietitian, and I specialize in helping people with migraine with their nutrition, with lifestyle changes, with figuring out supplementation, even lab testing, and I also have it myself. If you're watching, I am sipping on this today and my, of course, normal plain water in my water bottle. This isn't sponsored or anything, although, hey, hit me up. But I know a lot of y'all like ginger, and this is the Spindrift Ginger Lime Mule flavor. It is so gingery. I like these because they're made with actual essential oils and extracts rather than like flavorings. And I am not a flavoring police. I won't avoid things that have natural flavors or even artificial flavors. Let's be real. I love like a Skittle, but for something that I'm drinking all the time as part of my way to stay hydrated, I love this as an option because if I were to make this drink myself, it would have those ingredients in it. So I think that's cool. Very yummy with a few lime wedges added to it and a little pinch of salt. It's kind of giving cocktail. And yeah, you could totally add some sort of alcohol to it as well. I have done that before and it is yummy. So just a little pro tip, and especially since we are talking about grocery stores today, I did, get this from a grocery store. So what a great transition for us to start talking about today's topic. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm going into the grocery store, especially if I'm going into the grocery store by myself, I often just want to like walk right back out the door as soon as I enter the store because it can be a lot. And this can be the case, for anybody. It can definitely be the case for people with migraine who have sensory sensitivities, which we'll get more into. And add on top of that, a lot of us with migraine also have some form of neurodivergence, whether it's ADHD or autism or some combination of the two. Those things also increase our sensitivity to sensory input. So when you walk into the grocery store, you're hit with all of these different inputs to your nervous system. The bright lighting, and maybe it's not even bright light, but it's just weird light or fluorescent lighting, our favorite, right? You might be hit with lots of sounds, people talking, maybe there are songs playing overhead. Maybe there's a coffee shop as soon as you walk in. Mine has a Starbucks right inside the door. So the espresso machine might be going off, the carts squeaking and clanking all around. We've got a lot of different sounds. We've got a lot of different lights, even smells, right? Like someone's perfume, or depending on the season, there might be those cinnamon brooms, which honestly, to be fair, I do love those. In fact, that is one, but I know they can be intense, especially if there are 50 of them right inside the door. There's a lot of different sensory inputs going on, and you also have this weight of decision making and gathering in front of you. It's another thing that can add to that overwhelm. And for those of us with migraine in particular, this can be a lot of sensory input. Migraine can kind of change the way that our brains process all of these things. We can be a little bit more hypersensitive to either specific sensory inputs, like, a lot of people are sensitive to perfumes or certain detergent smells or, those fluorescent lights, or maybe all of those things. And then some people are also just more sensitive to quantity of sensory inputs. So the more you pile on to your nervous system, the more overwhelmed you get. Now, we're typically built as humans to filter out inputs that we don't really need to be focused on. So do we need to be focused on the fact that the lights above our head are fluorescent? No. Really, our brains should be filtering all of those irrelevant inputs out for us so we don't get overwhelmed. But for people with migraine, people with, again, neurodiversity, ADHD, autism, we have a harder time filtering out all those inputs. And this definitely varies person to person. So you may be able to filter them out better if you're having a great day, right? Or you may have a harder time filtering out all of those background inputs if you're kind of already migraine-y, or you had a migraine attack yesterday and now you're just kind of trying to recover, but you needed to run to the store and you're really struggling to handle all of these things. So there's a lot going on when it comes to why grocery stores are classically such a difficult place for people with migraine. Yes, it's about all of those classic environmental triggers that are impacting us, but it goes deeper than that. When we understand that it's not just, okay, fluorescent lighting is bad, but it's actually my nervous system is reacting differently than maybe someone else's, we can address it better and we can prepare better. So we already talked about examples of sensory inputs that may completely throw you for a loop, but I'm going to list out some more here so it can help you start thinking, okay, what are my specific barriers when I go to the grocery store? And this doesn't have to be the grocery store, of course. It can be anywhere else out in public that has a similar vibe to it, but we're using this as an example. So fluorescent lights, perfume, and other scents, like from detergents, candles, cinnamon brooms, those types of things. The crowds, if it's really busy, that's just an overwhelming input all around. Freezer fans. So if you're going from the produce section where it's one temperature to the aisles where it's another, to the frozen section where it's another temperature, that's an overwhelming shift to your body that continues to happen over and over and over. Overhead announcements. And then the visual clutter is a big one as well, especially for those of you who have vestibular migraine or another type of vestibular dizzy vertigo type condition. And that can include some forms of dysautonomia as well. But that visual clutter can be extremely overwhelming and overstimulating. Decision fatigue is another one, so we don't want to discount how draining that can be, even if you go in with a list, which highly recommend going in with a list, at least having the Notes app open on your phone with the few things you need to get. That's usually what I do. And then standing. So this is another one that for those of you, again, with vestibular migraine or maybe, chronic fatigue or certain types of dysautonomia or other conditions that affect your ability to stay for a long period of time, there are some tricks for that. If you don't have a mobility aid that you use, getting a grocery cart can be really helpful. I love those little baby shopping carts, not for babies, but the short ones. Do you know what I'm talking about? I always grab one of those unless I'm just literally getting one thing. So much easier to navigate the store with. When we're thinking about all of these different sensory inputs, it really does circle back to threshold theory, because it's not that your brain is just reacting to one thing. It's trying to process all of this at once. And this becomes exhausting on your system, and it can act like one big migraine trigger. It's not that it's one big trigger. It's that it's a bunch of tiny little triggers that add up to being this awful experience that's hard for you to tolerate and hard for you to process. The more supported your nervous system becomes, the more your capacity for environments like this will improve. So long term, working on raising your overall migraine threshold is going to help you with this. It's going to help you become less hypersensitive to those lights, those smells, those sounds, those things that just really trigger you about the grocery store. And that will translate to other areas of your life as well. Now, you might still be kind of more on the sensitive side. I know for me, I'm just a sensitive girly, and I don't say that in a bad way, but it is something that I've come to realize about myself. And even when I'm doing fantastically with my migraine and my threshold is super high, I'm feeling great, I still have to consider the impact that sensory inputs have on my system, and that's okay. So we do want to improve our resilience and our nervous system's response to these things by raising our migraine thresholds. And we talked about that in the past couple of episodes if you missed those. But more in the short term, when you're navigating the store, you can incorporate some different tools and strategies to help make it easier for you. And I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about that as well. Migraine glasses or sunglasses. Okay, so I think I might have my migraine glasses in this drawer. Yes. Oh, wait, these are not my migraine glasses. Love this. If you're watching the video, this is what those are. My purple Migraine Awareness Month sunglasses. But back on topic. Migraine glasses, if you're not familiar with them, the more scientific term is FL41 lenses. These types of lenses are specifically formulated, I guess you would say, to help with light sensitivity. So they block out the different wavelengths of light that contribute to light sensitivity, and then they allow other ones in. So they're kind of similar to sunglasses, but they're much more targeted and specific. You can also wear them more regularly, and it won't worsen light sensitivity, to my knowledge, versus sunglasses. If you're wearing sunglasses 24/7, it's not great for your your sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm, and it could worsen light sensitivity. So we definitely don't want that. So wearing your migraine glasses into the grocery store, highly recommend. Migraine glasses are often much more discreet, so they don't look as much like sunglasses. They're more like just a rosy tinted glasses. Also, if you don't have migraine glasses, or you just feel like you need a little bit more of a shield from your surroundings, wear your dang sunglasses. When I'm at the grocery store by myself, I am 75% of the time wearing my sunglasses inside. Has anyone ever looked at me twice? No, not that I've noticed. Wear your sunglasses in the grocery store if you need to, okay? It's not that big of a deal. I will also, because this helps with the overhead lighting, I'll wear a hat, like a baseball hat. You can wear earplugs if the sound really gets to you. Just for safety, I think it's much better to wear sound dampening earplugs. So Loop is a really well-known brand that makes those. Those can help reduce the sound, which can make it less overwhelming, less painful, but you can still be aware of your surroundings. Same thing with earbuds. If you, like, I usually listen to a podcast or an audiobook at the grocery store because I feel like having just that one audio input helps me rather than having 15,000 different audio inputs, from the grocery store itself. But I still do either only have one earplug or earbud in, or I make sure I have that setting on so you can hear your surroundings even while you're listening to whatever you're listening to. And this is all just for safety, it'd be overkill, but I really don't think it is. We talked about grabbing a grocery cart to help you if you need a mobility aid, but you don't have one. Smells are another thing that we've discussed, but those can be trickier to navigate. However, you can roll some skin-safe essential oil under your nose before you walk into the store. I've also just put like some chapstick or some lotion under my nose if I don't have anything else. But using some sort of scent to block out everything else, a scent that you know that you tolerate and isn't going to bother you, can be really helpful. They also make these little nose plugs that are like hollow and they go inside your nose. And they have smells in them. You can find them on Amazon. I think they're called Noosa or Nosa, Nosa. There might be 2 O's in there, I don't remember. But even just like searching up nose plug essential oil, it should probably come up. So those are some different tools that you can take with you to the grocery store to make it a little bit more tolerable for you. Also want to remember that delivery is an option. Pickup is an option. Since 2020, those have become much more common, and a lot of stores don't even charge you, especially for pickup. If you do need to do that, do it, girl. Make life easier for yourself. So I hope this helps give you some ideas and kind of get the wheels turning. If you are someone that really struggles with the grocery store or other, public spaces, you are by no means alone in that. It is very common for those of us with migraine, especially if your threshold's lower, to struggle with this. Okay. And I want to leave you with one last quote that one of my RYT clients told me one time that I think really encompasses a lot of different experiences with migraine, but this one was specifically about grocery stores. She said, "I didn't realize how overwhelming grocery stores were until they weren't anymore." So we can kind of get so used to these overwhelming environments and so used to feeling like just overwhelmed and maybe in pain or dizzy or nauseous or whatever it is all the time that we don't really realize how significant it is until it's improved. So I really want you to kind of do some brainstorming, do some reflecting, and kind of think if there's any way that you could make grocery shopping easier for yourself. Even if you don't think it's a big deal, experiment with it and see if maybe you can make it an even more enjoyable experience. So that is it for this week. If you did enjoy this episode, make sure to leave a review if you haven't already, rate the podcast, leave comments below if you can do that wherever you're watching or listening, and then share this with a friend if you feel like someone else may find it helpful as well. All right, I will see y'all next week. Bye.